All right, so we're going to be graphing linear equations from equations written in slope-intercept form. Okay, so let's just get started. And I keep on selling you on the point that this is really the easiest way to graph any type of linear equation. And you're going to see why soon enough. Okay, so any linear equation written in this form where m and b are actual numbers is called slope-intercept form, okay? So we're constantly going to be looking at two numbers to help us graph our lines. The coefficient of x, typically we use the variable m for that one, and the constant, the b, in this case, whatever number is in the place where b is. That's going to be the y-intercept. So let's talk about those two parts. So we're going to constantly see today equations written in this format. Okay? And so here's the big reveal. Whenever you see an equation written like this, number one, you know when you graph it, it's going to be a line. And the other thing is whatever number is in the position where m is the slope. Okay? Remember what the slope is? The steepness of the line. It tells us the rise over the run. Okay? And the other piece of information you get when an equation is written like this is whatever number b is, the constant, that's going to be the y-intercept. So whatever number is here in this position is where the line crosses the y-axis. All right? And you may be saying, okay, well, how does that help me graph the line? Soon will be revealed. So when you're first learning this, you got to learn how to read this equation and pluck out the information. Okay? So we're going to write some down. But in today's lesson, normally we got to use a formula sometimes and kind of do some subtraction and multiplying, dividing. Really, there's no arithmetic today. Nothing like that. It's just looking at the numbers and knowing how to read them and use them. Okay? So super easy. So here we go. Let's take this first equation. It is in slope-intercept form. Let me show you. Okay? We got, I'm just going to superimpose y equals mx plus b. I'm just going to write it above there. Okay? And we'll just do this once or twice. We won't do it all the time because I just want you to know where to identify the numbers. So that first number, the coefficient of x is m. And in this particular case, what is m? What number does m represent? 3. Now, it is 3. But here's the thing. I'm going to want to think of it in a different format because it's an integer. It's not a fraction. I want to convert that into a fraction because I want a rise and a run. So 3 as a fraction is the number 3 over 1. And the reason I want to think of it that way, if it's not already a fraction, you want to visualize it as a fraction. By the time we're done with this, you won't even have to write the numbers down. You'll just know how to look at them and know what to do with them. Here's why you want to think of it as a fraction. The 3 is the rise. It's how much you go up on the line. And the 1 is the run. How much you go across to the right. Okay, that's why we want to think of it as 3 over 1. So here we go. Let's try finding the y-intercept, the b value. So for the b value, I'm just going to write b. That's what the y-intercept is. And in this case, what number is that? 1. It's negative 1. You want the whole thing there. So let me use these highlighters again. I already got the slope, 3. The y-intercept, it's either positive or negative. And it takes that from whatever's in front. If it's a minus, it's a negative 1 in this case. If it's a plus, it's a positive 1. So in this case, it's a negative 1. So what that tells me is this line is going to cross the y-axis at this coordinate. 0, negative 1. I know for sure that's 1 point that's on the line. Okay? And that's all I need to get started. Just 1 point. And I got it. So this is going to be our starting point. Let's work with that. So look for 0, negative 1 on the y-axis. Where is that? You see it right there? That's 0, negative 1. That's our starting point. One thing I got to stress though, it's called the y-intercept because it crosses this axis, the one that goes up and down, the y-axis. Never start putting the first point on the x-axis. It's not an x-intercept. It's a y-intercept. So here we go. This is our first point. How can I get more points so I can graph the line? Yeah, use the rise over run. Use the slope. So if I want another point, I just do 3 over 1. Up 3 over 1. So let's do that. I'm going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3, and across to the right 1 because it's positive 1. Look at that. I just found a second point that's on the line. Can I make another one? Just to make sure. Go up 3 over 1 from this point. Up 3, 1, 2, 3, and then across 1. Okay. So let's try that again. I'm going to go up 3 from 2. It's 1, 2, 3 to 5, and then across 1. Look at that. That third point's on the line. Okay. So there's 3 points. They're all on the line. That's the line I want to graph. Didn't have to solve any equations. Didn't have to set anything equal to 0. Just know how to read those numbers on the equation. So that's the equation for the line. Okay. So here's the equation. There's the line for that equation. Any questions? All right, I see a couple people still writing a few things, so I'll wait for you. But we're going to move on to the second one. We're just going to practice this a little, learn how to read the points again, and then you'll get to practice on the it's not an IXL today, it's a Delta Math. Okay. You guys ready? Let's move on to the second one. So now we're going to graph y equals negative 1/2 x plus 4. That's the equation. Okay, let's do it. So we want the slope and we want the y-intercept. Here's the equation. Y equals mx plus b. So we're looking for the slope, which is this number in front of x. And we're looking for the y-intercept, which is the constant behind the x for the y-intercept. So let's start with the slope. What's the slope for this line? 1/2? But what's in front of there? Negative 1/2. We do need the negative. Because if we don't have as a negative slope, it's going to be another line that goes uphill. But because that's a negative line, it has to go downhill, left or right. Okay? Here's the thing. That negative, it's either with the numerator or the denominator. And sometimes you're going to want it with the other one. So it's either negative 1 over positive 2 or 1 over negative 2. And I'll show you what the difference is for that. You're going to get the same line, but sometimes you want to think of it this way or that way. Usually you're good with just the numerator on the top or the negative on the top. Okay, but let's go ahead and continue. Now we want the y-intercept, the b value. What's the y-intercept number for this line? 4. And it's a positive 4 because it's got a plus. So if I want to think of the coordinate for this, it's 0, 4. Okay. Remember, I know y-intercept, x is always 0, so that's how we know that. Okay. So start with a y-intercept. That's your first point. That's a point you know on the line. Where do I find it on the y-axis? On which number? Which number on this y-axis do I start at? 4. The y-intercept's always your starting point. So look for 4 right there. This tells you where on the y-axis to start at 0, 4, just 4 basically. Now I'm going to use the slope, the rise over run. It's negative 1 over 2. What does that tell me to do? Go up or down? Down. We go down 1 and to the right 2 because it's positive 2. Down 1 and to the right 2, right there. There's the second point, okay? And I could do that again. Go down 1 and to the right 2. There's a third point. That's if I'm using negative 1 over 2. But what if I use 1 over negative 2? Go back to the original. 1 over negative 2 doesn't tell me to go down and to the right. I'm going to do the opposite of those. I'm going to go up and to the left. So you go up 1 and to the left 2. Let's try that. Go back to your original point on 4. Go up 1 space and to the left 2. You see that is part of the same line? So you can do one or the other. Usually negative on top is the way to go. And I know that I'm on the right track because look at this line. It's going downhill. Negative slope lines all need to go downwards, left to right. So definitely this line. Okay. My God, this is easy. I can't stand how easy it is. All right, you guys ready? Let's do a few more. Okay, the last two are the only things that get a little confusing, but we'll get through them. Okay, so let's see. We're gonna go a little faster. Here's our slope. Here's our y-intercept. Let's write them down. The slope for this particular line, which is y equals negative 3/4 x minus 7, what's the slope? 3/4. That's a positive slope. So we expect a line that's going to go uphill somehow. Okay? Or this is going to tell us to go up and to the right, correct? Up and to the right. What's the opposite of up and to the right? Down, negative 3. To the left, negative 4. Does that make sense? Is that a positive slope? What's a negative divided by a negative? Positive, so it's a positive slope. Okay, so that's the slope. Let's find the y-intercept. What's my y-intercept number? Negative 7. So that means the coordinates are 0, negative 7. And that's our starting point. That's always where we start, okay? So where on the y-axis will I begin? Down to what? Okay, let me find it right there. Oh, no, that's 9, negative 9. Negative 7's right there. I almost made a mistake. Negative 7's between negative 6 and negative 8. There we go. So now I'm going to use 3 over 4. That's just the easier one. So if I'm here, what am I going to do to find another point? Yeah, I want to go up 3 and over to the right 4. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3, and over 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right there. There's a point. I can go again. up 3. 1, 2, 3. Over 4. Right there. See, I went up 3 over 4. Up 3 over 4. Okay. If I want, I can go down 3 and to the left 4. Put one there. Just for fun. Right there, actually. Yeah, down 3 over 1, 2, 3, 4 right there. And do you see how that point's also part of the line? I just did that to show off. You don't have to put this one. Those 3 are fine. But that last point I made was using down and to the left. And sure enough, the line goes uphill. Okay. All right. So I think we're doing pretty good. We're actually doing really good on time too. Okay. So let's figure out the slope and the y-intercept on this one. The thing that's tricky here is the slope. Okay? Because the slope is the coefficient for x, right? But I don't see anything. It's 1 though. We go by that rule. If you don't see a coefficient for a variable, it's either 1 or -1 depending on if it's positive or negative. So +1. So I'm going to write the slope as 1. And 1 as a fraction is 1 over 1. Okay? So if you don't see a number in front of x, the slope is 1. Or if it's negative in front of x, -1. Okay. The y-intercept we can do real easily though. That is -2. That means the y-intercept coordinates are 0, -2. Okay, so we're looking for 0, -2. Quick way to find it is just to go on the y-axis somewhere and look for where -2 is. It's always on the y-axis. -2 is right there. Okay, and the slope is 1 over 1, so I want to go up 1 and to the right 1, right there. Real close by. There's another one. There's another one. These are real close together, so I just make a few to make sure I get a good line. And you can do the opposite, down and to the left. Okay. There you go. There's one that way. And so we got a bunch of points. The more points, the more accurate your line tends to be. Okay, so here we go. That is the line for y equals x minus 2. Okay. All right. So we are finally at our last linear equation we're going to graph. Okay. So we see the slope, -5. So we got the m for sure. -5, which we want to write as -5 over 1. If it's an integer, give it a denominator of 1. So that means you just go 1 over. So we'll use that. The one that's confusing, though, or I'm not sure of at this point, is the y-intercept. What number goes here? Ah, yeah. You see how it's, normally we're expecting plus or minus something, but we don't have anything? Well, what number is nothing? 0. So that means the coordinates are 0, 0, which is the origin. So if you see nothing being added or subtracted, it's crossing the 0, 0 point, the origin. So let's start there. We're started 0, 0. That's our starting point. And then what are we going to do to find another point? Down 5 and over 1. It's -5 over 1. So down 5 over 1. And we can do that again. Down 5 over 1. Here's the third point. If you're feeling fancy, you can go back up to the top and do the opposite of down and to the right, up and to the left. Up 5 and over 1 this way. There's a 4th point. So with 4 points, I think we've got a pretty accurate line here. Let's make the line. And should this line be going downhill? Yes, it's a negative slope. It's quite steep negative slope too. Okay, so this is the assignment we're going to do on Delta Math. So what I'd like you to do is get your Chromebooks open, please. Open up Delta Math, and there's an assignment called Slope-Intercept form. And that's the one we're going to work on. There's 3 that we're going to do together. Okay?